All right, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll get started where everyone else does. As far as earliest childhood memories, what are we getting into?
I'd probably say just kind of hanging out with my siblings. I have three younger sisters and an older brother, and we all kind of just hung out outside playing around. I don't
Hey, no, that's good to
know.
hear. I do a lot of podcasts, and whenever people are like they hang outside with their friends or their family, I'm trying to see where the cutoff is, but we're still doing good because I know at some point it stops. What were you doing? Were you in the forest? Were you guys just wrestling? What was going on?
We rode our bikes around the neighborhood a lot. I remember me and my sisters would find roly-polies under the bricks in our yard, and we'd make little roly-poly cities out of them.
There you go. Anything possible. As far as imagination went as a kid, were you told to like, oh, go do these specific things, or was pretty much you're on your own?
We kind of just went outside and did whatever we were on our own. So,
Yeah. Well, I have a 3-year-old and an 8-month old, so I'm always wondering how to get kids to do specific things without telling them to do this, and it turns out you trust them. You let them go, and we'll see
uh-huh.
how it works out.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do math now. So is 5 kids in your family?
hmm
So you had 5 kids in your family. Was there ever a time where you were the youngest and you were like, "Oh, I really enjoy this," and then 3 more popped out, or how did that how'd that work out?
so we're all pretty close in age. At one point, my mom had four under four, or
Oh,
maybe it was
oh no.
four under five. So it was my brother, he's a year older than me, and then me. I was two when my younger sister was born. So
Okay.
there's not a whole lot of memories before the other ones.
There wasn't time for you to get jealous of like,
Yeah.
hey, this used to be me.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what was growing up with so much, not necessarily attention being divided, but just so much family around?
It was honestly so much fun. We are all so close. We're all still
Yeah.
really close. And I mean, we stayed really busy. We were all like athletes growing up. My parents were athletes. And so we stayed busy with sports. I think me and my one of my younger sisters did gymnastics, so we were there a lot.
Yeah.
But I didn't really notice any like attention being split between all of us. I think we all kind of just hung out and
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
my wife keeps saying like she wants we have two. She definitely wants a third, and she's like,
Uh-huh.
if it's in the budget, a fourth and a fifth. And I haven't talked to anybody that's been like, yeah, it sucked. Everyone's just like, it's great. Everybody
Yeah.
loves everybody. We're just hanging out all the time. I'm like, oh,
We
well,
definitely, it was hard like when we went out to eat and stuff
yes,
because it's like it's so much more expensive or like you're getting water and what's the cheapest thing on the menu, which
yep.
I mean at
No,
the end
for
of the day it's
for
not that
sure.
big of a deal. So
Yeah. So you said you did gymnastics when you were growing up. Did you get to
Mhm.
pick? Did you do a lot of other things before that? How did you
We
get there?
started gymnastics when we were about three. My brother did gymnastics too, but we did other sports as well, just like the rec sports.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and I guess we all kind of did gymnastics except for my youngest sister. She's quite a bit younger than the rest of us, but yeah, I mean, we just loved it. We
Yeah.
spent a lot of time there growing up, so
Was your coach more of the Russian style, just listen to what I say, I'm gonna work you till you drop, or was it a more enjoyable environment for you?
it was more enjoyable. It was
Ah,
at YMCA, so it wasn't like
nice.
crazy clubs, but I mean, it was still pretty intense, but not like
Yeah.
what you
Well,
hear.
there's a couple paths, and usually the intense ones, they tell every parent, "Oh, this is how we're gonna get you to the Olympics."
Yeah.
There's way too many clubs for that to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so at that point, you're just burning kids out and they're not getting their period for an extended period of time because
Yeah.
all the stress and don't eat, you got to be skinny.
Yeah, luckily we didn't have that. But
Hey, that's good to hear. The gymnastics world is healing slowly,
yeah.
slowly. It's getting
hmm
there. Was there a particular thing you liked about gymnastics, like a particular event, or just all of it together?
Bars was my favorite,
Okay.
but I'd probably say beam was my least favorite because it was the scariest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So just because it was up high or because it was so small?
Um, Probably just, I mean, both. It was up high and it was small. I
Yeah.
mean, at that age, like the beam was up to our chins, basically.
Oh man. Well, also it's not soft either. So if
No,
you
it's
make a
like wrapped in
mistake,
kind of a little bit of padding, but
yeah,
yeah. And just the thought of like falling off, which really like if you fell, there was mats underneath you and you probably wouldn't get hurt, but it's
yeah,
just like the thought of walking on something real skinny.
yeah, that drop.
Yeah.
So if you had so much gymnastics going on, were you a fan of school? Did you like academics at all? Or were you like, I just wanna go to the gym?
I kind of just got through school.
Yeah,
I mean, I was kind of a teacher's pet, and so like I wanted to do well, and like my parents had high expectations for us, so I wanted to do well for them too. And school was just kind of something I did. I didn't really enjoy it or
yeah.
dislike it, but
How did your parents portray high expectations?
um, I guess like praise when we did well, and when they could tell we could do better, it was kind of a I know you can do better in this, like
Okay.
what went
So
wrong.
would they just straight up tell you, be like, "Hey, I know you can do better. Like, let's talk about it," or what did you see?
Um. I mean, there wasn't like a whole lot of instances because we really did want to do well. And so there wasn't a whole lot of times where we just weren't trying.
Yeah,
And so usually, if it was like something they knew we could try harder, it would probably just be a conversation. But
that's good. As far as you said, your parents were athletes, how did that play into just your life growing up in like elementary and middle school?
they just kind of wanted us to get involved. I think they could see the life lessons that they learned from sports, especially my dad. He
Yeah,
is just a very big advocate of getting involved and like being on a sports team just because of what it can teach you about yourself and kind of just about life.
yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
is that something he would just straight up tell you, or that's just kind of the vibe that you got?
A little bit of both. It was kind of the vibe, but he also, well, and his dad, my grandpa, he was big there. He was a football coach, and so he was big
Okay.
about like what football could teach you and that type of stuff. Typical
Um,
grandpa type thing.
with having so many kids, what did nutrition look like for you at home, and especially a gymnast? You need a couple more calories.
Yeah, I don't think I ate as well as I probably should have. And like when you're a parent, you just like give what you need, like to keep
Yeah,
them alive, basically. And with that many kids, it was kind of like, what can we buy for cheap that's still going to keep them fed?
yeah.
Um, when we went to gymnastics practices, we'd leave school as like 3:30. We'd have practice. Sometimes we'd have a practice at like 4, and
Okay.
then like a few years we had it at like 5. So we'd have like an hour to go home and eat. And our gymnastics gym was like 30 minutes away. So when we had practice at 4, we'd have to pack snacks or like dinner because our
Yeah.
practice would be like 4 hours long.
Oh man.
Yeah, so we would practice for a few hours, then we'd have a little break where we could eat, and usually that was like a little cup of ramen noodles or
Right.
mac and cheese or something. And then we'd get done. We might eat after. Sometimes my parents would take us out to eat after, and then it by that time it'd be like 8, 9, and then we'd drive 30 minutes home and do homework if we had it,
Yeah.
and then go to bed.
How often were you falling asleep on that drive home? That's
Oh,
so much.
probably a lot. But yeah, um it was only like 3 times a week. So
Okay.
it
So,
wasn't every night, but
yeah. What was the best disciplinary action to keep you guys under control in the car? Because I assume at some points you guys are getting rowdy, and I'm like, how do you keep this together?
we were pretty chill most of the time. We're all kind of a little introverted, but every once in
Okay.
a while we get a little rowdy.
Yeah.
I think my parents would just, I don't know, like raise their voices at us and we'd get
Okay.
scared and quiet down. It didn't take much to.
Yeah. My my mom would always be like, "Yeah, my grandpa made us walk home if we did anything wrong." And I was a spoiled kid. I didn't really have any punishments. I was like, "Oh, all
Mhm.
right." And my mom's like, "Shoot, that didn't work. That punishment didn't really work out for us too much."
Yeah.
Um, when you're going through middle school to high school, I would say for guys it's a little difficult, just the body changing and things like that. But we razz each other and they're kind of used to that. How was it for you going through that phase?
Middle school was probably the hardest time, like in my growing up years, just because my parents also got divorced within those few years. And
Okay.
so really, I had a best friend that I kind of stuck with and I hung out with her a lot. It was also the time where I was transitioning out of gymnastics,
Okay.
but I was also transitioning into pole vault. So I
Okay.
think there was a lot of change happening. And I think because of that, like I don't have a whole lot of like memories from middle school
Yeah.
because it's so hectic. But I remember me and my best friend were really close. I remember kind of morning like gymnastics, but also being really excited about pole vault.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Just kind of burying yourself in the things that you could do.
yeah.
How did they grab you so early for pole vault? What that's some coach is like, yeah, I can get her. Let's go.
So, well, I started when I was 11, so it was like the end of fifth grade, and it was because the girls at my gymnastics gym, they had started going to this club, this pole vault club,
Yeah,
and they were like pretty successful. They were older than me, so they were like able to compete like in high school and stuff.
right.
And so my mom saw it like on Facebook and stuff, and she's like, "Hey, like I think you'd be really good at this." And so
Yeah.
she's like, "You want to try it?" And so
What
she
a
signed me up for
move.
a club, or signed me up for a camp, and I went there for my first day. I was 11 years old, and I jumped like 6 feet 6 inches, which is not too bad for a little kid.
So break down, because obviously everyone's watched pole vault. I don't
Mhm.
think we really understand how it works because every pole vaulter is jacked and,
Yeah.
and very strong. So there's something necessary to go on. Like you see the high jumpers, they're usually kind of a little gangly, a little
Yeah.
like very fluid in that motion. But as a pole vaulter, like break it down for me. What are we doing?
I think the biggest thing is as a pole vaulter, you have to train as a sprinter, but you also kind of have to get your upper body really strong. So we do a
Okay.
lot of lifting, like a lot more lifting than the other event groups.
Yeah.
A lot of our pole vaulters were gymnasts,
Okay.
like so, especially the women vaulters.
Hmm.
Like I'd say 70% of women vaulters were gymnasts at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the strength is like rooted in is the gymnastics and like the upper body strength that comes from that and the body awareness.
So
And so the first part of
the strength portion of it, obviously you're not just holding onto this pole and it flings you up. That's what it
uh-huh.
looks like. Um is it a push-pull motion? Like what are the steps?
Yeah, there's a lot of physics, like a lot more physics than it seems like goes on
Okay.
behind pole vault and like a science that you really have to understand to be a good vaulter. And that's why like if you talk to any vaulters, a lot of them are really smart about like the sport. So I guess what you think about as a vault, the first part you think about is the run.
Okay.
And then when you jump off the ground, you kind of think of it as a long jump.
Okay.
And there's not really, there is a push, but it's more like just an initial like punch with your hands up.
Hmm.
And that's what kind of gets the pole bending. So it's a long jump while you're putting pressure into the pole with your hands. And then from there, it's a swing from the lower body, from the
Hmm.
hips to get your hips up. And then from there is where you'd kind of pull with your upper body.
And you're getting heights at your first try at 11 years old?
Yeah, I mean, to start, you just have a pole, you step back, and you just jump and kind of hold on.
Okay.
Like to start out, there's not that much science into it just because you try to tell that to an 11-year-old, you're probably not going to get very far. So,
Yeah.
I mean, my coach started with just like holding the pole on the ground. You're going to run and you're going to jump and you're going to hold on.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it started. And then eventually you start doing that and you are able to like bend the pole. Um, yeah, I don't
It just happens.
yeah.
So when you're starting, obviously there's a big cushion on the far, there's a big pad on the far side and try not to hit these poles. How do you not go all the other directions?
So there's a bend line on all the pole vault poles.
Yeah.
They bend a specific way. So
Oh,
like, yeah. So if you are
that's
like holding
cool.
the pole in your hand, it'll like sit like it's always like a little bit bent. If you were to hold up a pole,
Yeah.
you kind of see like the natural bend in it. And there's
Yeah.
also like a line that indicates it on a lot of poles.
Oh,
And
that's
so when you
nice.
hold it in your hand, it like bends like that, and then you like make sure when you're about to go that the bend is facing like forward so the
Yeah.
pole will bend the right way. And so
So
that's
do people, is that usually when you see the mistakes, is if they're holding it the wrong way?
that can be it sometimes, yeah. So if you jump and the bend line isn't lined up, the pole will twist in your hand because it naturally wants to go forward. And so
Gotcha.
when it twists in your hand, that's you'll see some like that could be a reason why people bail out on their jumps.
Okay, so we're transitioning from gymnastics to pole vault. What's going through your mind as far as like, oh, this novelty is phenomenal, this is super cool. Like what's happening?
There wasn't, I think it was just because I was like pretty good at it. I was
Okay.
like, man, this is fun. I knew gymnastics one was really expensive. And then two, the time that it took just wasn't feasible, especially because I wanted to do like middle school and high school sports.
Yeah.
I during middle school I would do like middle school sports until 5:30 and then I'd go and do gymnastics practice for a few hours and then I'd come home.
Oh,
That was too much. Like I
that's a
would
lot.
Yeah, I would wake up and lift in the mornings. I would go before school and lift, and then I'd go to school, and then I'd go to like volleyball practice, and then I'd go to gymnastics practice. And after like a year of that, my parents were like, "Yeah, we can't do this anymore." And so I kind of just like gave up on gymnastics, and I had to really like find something else to
Yeah.
myself into because that's what I enjoyed.
That's why I mean I feel like they should have a sports dietitian in every like middle schooler
Yeah.
at this point from how much the
Yeah.
kids are doing. I remember
Uh,
playing at like soccer tournaments. They're like, all right, you got four 90 minutes games. Here's two Subways and some oranges. And
yeah.
then go play at the hotel for the next 2 hours in the hot tub
Yeah.
running around. I'm like, how can children do this? It's
Yeah.
wild.
It was insane. Yeah, I didn't start my period until after I quit gymnastics, and I think it's because of like lack of nutrition and my
Oh,
hormones were a
fatigue.
mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it's like, oh, is it time for this to happen? No, 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 no,
We don't
no,
have the
no, no.
energy for
We're
that.
we're
Yeah.
good here. When you would go see the doctor, was there ever a, hey, like this should be happening at this time, or what was going on there?
I didn't really, I mean, my family's kind of one like unless you're like really sick and you need medicine, we're not going to spend $1 million at a doctor's appointment for them to tell
Yeah,
you like you just need to eat more.
right.
So I
No,
don't,
that's
they
fair.
weren't too worried about it because I mean it was eighth grade, and that's not an abnormal time. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think nowadays, I think the earliest is like 9 years old. I'm like, what
yeah,
is
it's starting to get early and earlier.
happening? We gotta get away from that cheap milk and
Yeah.
everything. But that's for another time. So if you don't mind talking about it, as far as the divorce went, how was it for you? Just like the early phases of it.
I really kind of took my sisters under my wing, and so I was kind of my older brother, he is like an older sibling, obviously, but I feel like I kind of took control of them
Yeah,
because we were all closer. My brother was kind of dealing with it in his own ways, and I felt like I kind of had to like talk my sisters through it or like kind of I guess be there through all the change for them. And
yeah,
so I think that was kind of my biggest role in all of it was just making sure my sisters had somebody that they could, I guess, somebody that could take care of them while there was so much happening.
Yeah. And how were you able to be that person?
I guess just almost kind of distraction. Like me and my sisters hung out a lot. And
Yeah.
then when my mom moved out, she moved into a three-bedroom apartment. And so it was me, my three sisters in one room,
Yeah.
my brother in another, and then my mom had her own room. So me and my
Yeah.
sisters spent a lot of time together. And so I think just like hanging out and finding stuff to do, just kind of get our minds off of what all was happening and all the change.
Hmm. I was when my parents got divorced, my sister went to college a year later, so it was just me. My dad started. I don't know if my grandma was still alive at that point, but he was living in my grandma's house, and it was just
Mm.
like, and it smelled like an old lady. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But they strangely got along super well. Um, I think it's because my dad was back on meds, and I think that kind of helped with the manic episode or
Uh-huh.
whatever it was that was going on.
Yeah.
Um, and so we didn't really get much of that in between stuff until like maybe 10, 15 years later where we got to actually hear about it. It was like, oh, oh,
Yeah.
okay. This is why we didn't go on that trip or whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
now
I
I was
think
older. Um,
I heard a lot of like what happened, like what was happening with my parents, and my sisters didn't know a whole lot. And so I feel
okay.
like I was kind of protecting them from what all
Yeah.
was happening.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and my sister later is like, you didn't know like they were going to relationship or marriage counseling for eight
yeah.
years. Like they went like, what do you? I'm like, no, they said they were going out on a date. Like I trust adults. What am I supposed to do here?
Yeah.
So was there ever a time that you're like, oh, I'm gonna start partying, I'm gonna do this, or was no?
No, I didn't really. I went out with my friends. I mean, I was the biggest rebellion thing I did was like go see my boyfriend. That was like I went out of town or I went to like the next town over and
Yeah.
I told my mom I was going with my friend and then my boyfriend ended up meeting us there. Like that was the
Got him.
biggest kind of rebellion. I
Yeah.
don't know. I was a like a goody two shoes kind of. I didn't want to disappoint my parents. I knew that they would
Mhm.
be upset if I did
Yeah.
something I wasn't supposed to, so
So going through the process, it seems like you had a pretty level head about it. Was there a point where you're like, oh, I wish this didn't happen, or it's good for my parents? What was going through your head?
like as
So
in
like
me,
when my parents got divorced, it was obvious like 10, 15 years later hindsight, I found out it was a good thing. Like you guys are much happier people now. You're remarried, you can talk, you still work at the same company, which is hilarious. Um, but like it was definitely a good thing. But while you're going through it, were you hoping like it didn't happen or things would change back?
I definitely there was definitely times that I wish it didn't happen. Um, I think there's no way that it could have not happened just
Yeah.
because of everything.
Hmm.
Uh, but
Did you? Yeah.
I don't think like for my sake I wish it didn't happen, but I know for their sake it had to happen.
Yeah. Do you feel like you gained any tools on just dealing with any like mental hardships moving forward when that was going on?
Yeah, I think I kind of learned how to take care of myself. Like when I mean, when my parents are going through something like that, they were both kind of focused on themselves, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I think it took a toll on me and like being able to take care of myself and take care of my siblings.
Hmm.
And so I think it made me mature, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it also kind of gave me an outlook on how I want my future marriage to be.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the wild thing because I look at things now and I was like, okay, my parents got divorced. They were distracted. Like I feel like I have a lot on my plate right now, and like well, I'm in a very happy marriage. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't do the dishes, and you can talk to my wife about that, but very, very minuscule things at the moment. But I can't imagine. being distracted by not being with the person that you're married. I'm like, my parents were going through it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
how were you able to like give me advice or just like enjoy a vacation? Like, were you just putting on a face? And it's like, that's
Yeah.
like, mom, it makes sense why you burnt so many dinners. Like, she would
It
just,
made it kind of
yeah,
really like it showed me that my parents really are just people too.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of really when it really clicked is like, okay, like
That
they are
didn't click.
just
That didn't
and they
click for
really
me until I think I had my first child. I was like, oh, you guys, you just babies raising babies like that.
yeah.
You're just like me, and I believed
Mhm.
everything you said.
Yeah.
I ate it all up.
Uh,
So as we're going through high school, when did we figure out that we were going to be like pretty good at pole vaulting?
um,
Yeah.
so in eighth grade, I actually broke the national record for like eighth grade pole vaulters.
Let's go.
And
And you
so,
had been doing it for how long?
uh, 3 years.
Okay, okay, putting in the work.
13. Yeah. So I mean I was pretty successful just starting out. Like I think by my first summer I was jumping 9 feet, which would place at most high school meets and could even place at some high school state meets.
Yeah,
So that's kind of and then I think that's really what drove my like motivation is just because I was successful at it.
yeah,
It's fun to have success with stuff. And so
absolutely.
yeah.
What was there a I think all schools are differently just depending on the makeup of it, but did your school like academics more, sports more? Were you one of the it kids? What did we look like in our school?
We were pretty sport heavy. A lot of our popular kids were athletes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily have considered myself like a popular kid. I think my parents weren't like they didn't grow up in the area, and
Hmm.
my we moved back because that's where my dad went to college, and so I think more like the popular kids were the ones who had like pretty strong family ties
Okay.
in school. And so I was a little bit of an outlier while I was still like a decently
Are we
successful.
living with old money here? What what's going on here?
Yeah. Our family or our town is like very tight knit
Okay.
and like drama spreads fast. It's a small town, very like rooted in heritage and
Real
last names. Yeah.
that's what's some of the best last names you got that
Well,
are
it's a Swedish
around?
town, so there's a
Okay.
lot of Johnsons, Carlsons. Uh, we have a kid in my class's last name is Sjugren, but it's spelled Sjogren
That's
because it's
phenomenal.
Swedish.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of like we have Swensons. It's a
Okay.
lot of because yeah, my town is like very Swedish.
What town is this? Because I went to a school, or I went one of my buddies. His last name's Swenson. I for the until like a year ago when I had him on the podcast, I thought it was Swanson. I've
It's
been calling him the wrong name. I was like, oh no.
it's called Lindsborg.
Okay.
Yeah. It's every other year we have like a Swedish festival and the little kids dress up in traditional Swedish costumes
What
and
state is that in?
Kansas.
Okay. I'm just trying to imagine the fancy people and the drama. What was some of the good drama running around your high school?
Um, I don't I don't know if I can't even really think of anything like specific drama that went around.
I think our senior class was just so tired of school because every year there'd be like construction and it wasn't for us. Like we got to deal with the construction, but
Yeah.
no, we didn't get the sweet climbing wall or the new computer center, but we got to park a mile away because they're redoing the parking lot. And when senior year came, we're like, yeah, we're good here, boss. But I think our best senior prank or our seniors put up a brick and mortar wall in like the middle of like the longest hallway. I thought that was pretty cool, but they took it down pretty quickly.
Our
Did you
school,
guys?
if we did a senior prank, they told us we wouldn't graduate.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah.
I think I almost didn't graduate because my tennis coach neglected to tell the office that we were leaving early for a tournament. So they're just like, "Oh, sorry, you're not going to get your diploma because you missed this day." I'm like, "What am I supposed to tell you?" Like, there's I've never skipped, which I started skipping afterwards. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Um, but they're like, "Yeah, yeah, no call, no show." I'm like, "I was at 10. Like, you can see the record. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never been in the office before. What do I do here?" So that was a good time. So did you have a guidance counselor pushing you in a certain direction, or more so just recruiters saying, "Hey, we got to get you over here"?
Um, I didn't like for my high school,
Well, no, so from high school to college.
college. My guidance counselor, um, she didn't like really push me in any specific way. They definitely like helped get like my NCAA stuff kind of set up.
Yeah,
But but like college, I was kind of on my own. My dad helped me quite a bit,
yeah. I
but it
feel
was
like
also
I just skipped over because you said eighth grade you would have placed in high school track meets, and then I just went past your whole high school career. I'm like, oh no. So let's go to your high school career. If you're jumping that high, then when you get into high school, is there an expectation put on yourself? What's going through your head?
Um, s- I definitely had expectations for myself, but at the time, like, I didn't really know, like, what people were jumping like, as self-conceited as it sounded. I was kind of in a league of my own because
Yeah.
I would go to track meets and the other girls would jump and I'd wait for them to be done and then I would start jumping
Oh, because they move
because
it.
the
They
heights were
want to
so much
move it
higher.
back down. You just gotta.
Yeah. So I kind of like I didn't really have anything to compare it to.
Yeah.
Like freshman year I ended up jumping like 12 feet 10 inches, but then at the state meet I didn't do as well. And I had like the top four jumpers in the state in my class, so I ended up
Yeah.
getting fourth.
So where were they your whole middle school career?
They just went to different school or went to like they're in
Okay. Okay.
not the
So
same
just
region.
the pond got bigger.
Yeah.
So we're jumping 12. What was the your best compared to what got first for the state meet?
Um, I think 12 feet at the state, something around 12 feet got first
Yeah.
at the state meet. I think I jumped 11 feet
Okay.
and got fourth, which would have gotten first in like almost every other division. But yeah,
And so mentally, how do you deal with not being in the league of your own or not getting first?
I think that was kind of one of the biggest challenges as I moved forward was competing at a high level because I had just been used to competing on my own.
Yeah.
So like even when I got to college, like me and my teammate were kind of the only two in our conference that were jumping those. Well, I guess there was a few other girls, but like when we went to like really big meets, I
Yeah.
think I was kind of shell shocked. And so that has been one of my biggest challenges as a vaulter is competing at a high level.
Yeah. So is that something that you journal about, you work with a coach about? What tools do you use?
Um, I mean, my coach definitely helps. It's mostly just like a confidence thing,
Okay.
and I think I struggled with my confidence a lot, like growing up too. And so I
Yeah.
think just growing as an athlete and like reminding myself, but also having my coach there to be like, you're one of the best jumpers in the country.
Yeah.
You are like, you should be here. There's no reason that like you need to be like scared of this meet or like stuff like that, I
Yeah.
guess.
Do you have a specific practice that you use? I know there's a lot of visualization. I'm pumped that I got that word correctly the first time. Coaches going around that like they'll have you lay down, they have you go through your steps. Sometimes it's just you're talking into a mirror with these are your six powerful words or whatever it is. What's your specifics that you get into?
When I really am like feeling like I need kind of a confidence boost, I'll journal sometimes.
Okay.
Um, the biggest thing that helps is just repetitions and practice.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do visualize like if I'm having like a confidence issue,
Yeah.
I'll watch a video and then I'll like visualize. We do a lot of videos, like every single practice we video, basically
Okay.
every single jump. And
Yeah.
so my coach will send them to me and I'll be able to go back and watch every jump and like kind of nitpick and
Yeah.
this is what I did well, this is what I need to work on.
Yeah. I had a woman on here. Her name is Jen Thompson, and she's the federation or world record holder for bench or whatever is for her federation because there's a million
Uh-huh.
of them anyways.
Hmm.
But she's 51 and she's been just slinging weights since she was like 16 or 17.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, like what was your secret? She's like, oh, I visualized beforehand, so when I get up there, I'm not nervous. I was like, that's wild because if I'm
Yeah.
doing any, like I'm playing rec volleyball and I'm nervous because that guy's 6'7" on the other side.
Yeah.
Like that is wild to be able to do those types of things. So what's your community like around when you first got into college?
And there was a family it was like family friends. I was really good friends with um the family's niece
Okay.
back home. And so I knew them. That was one of the, I guess, biggest things that helped freshman year of college. I also just like the team was a really good community
Yeah.
to have. Um, my coach was awesome, but I guess the biggest thing was having my teammates there.
Yeah. I skipped sophomore, junior, and senior year of of your pole vaulting. What was your biggest highlight of your high school career?
Probably breaking the state record my sophomore year.
Oh, let's go.
Now me and my sister hold it. So last year my sister was a senior in high school, and instead of breaking my record, she
Yeah.
chose to tie it.
Oh,
And so
that's
that was
super
pretty
cool.
special. So now we share the state record.
So knowing so after that, so sophomore year, I mean there's some people that like they don't hit PRs in shot put or whatever it is for years. That's got to be that's hard.
Yeah. I definitely, well, so I jumped higher my freshman year than I did my sophomore year. I
Yeah.
jumped freshman year, I jumped 12.10. Sophomore year, I jumped 12.8 was the highest I jumped. And then junior year was COVID. And
Yeah.
so that I didn't
Oh
have the
shit.
track season. Yeah. And then senior year, I ended up jumping 13.3. So there was a 2 years where I plateaued, but
So what was the adjustments you made to jump a foot higher?
um, there wasn't really a whole lot of adjustments. I think I just got faster, more stronger, like a little bit of change in my technique, but I
Yeah.
think mostly just like maturing and getting faster and stronger. Because the whole time, like throughout COVID, I was kind of working out, and then we lifted really heavy at in high school too.
Yeah. What does lifting heavy look like for you?
We lifted 4 times a week, and we did like Olympic lifts. Um, so like Mondays we would do squat and hang clean. Tuesdays we would do bench and snatch.
Yeah.
And we'd rest Wednesdays, or the rest day might have been like switched around. But then Thursdays we would do like front squat and clean and jerk, and Fridays
Nice.
uh we would do power clean and incline.
So you had a pretty good coach at your high school
Yeah, yeah.
then.
He was our football coach, and him and my dad were really, really good friends. They coached together
Yeah.
back before we moved to Lindsborg,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it was a lot of fun.
We're gonna get these kids jacked. That's fantastic. Did you enjoy doing the Olympic lifts and hitting them
Yeah,
and stuff like that? Oh,
it
that
was so much fun. I had a blast. That was probably one of my favorite things about high school was going and
yeah,
lifting.
that's super fun. One of the happiest parts of my life at the moment is I go to a CrossFit gym and I haven't been able to go as much just because the timing with the kids and whatnot. But the owner's like, "Yeah, you can bring your daughter if you want." And I'm just like grinning in ear to ear. She sits in the corner. Sometimes she comes and does like a warm up with her. She'll pick up PVC and like start deadlifting, doing some cleans. I was like, this. I come home, my wife's had like a hard time with the 8 month old. I'm like, I had the best day ever. She's like,
Yeah.
you can't always be this happy if you're going to. I'm like, I get to work out, and my daughter works out. I'm like, this is it.
Uh,
This is phenomenal. Um, so what does a career or college trajectory look for a pole vaulter? Like you're going through high school, or you're like, man, I'm gonna get this full ride, or I'm gonna try to take this career path and I'm gonna try to do just a little bit of jumping. What's going through your head?
my biggest goal was just to find somewhere where I could get some money
Okay.
and vault, like get as much of my school paid for as I could and
Yeah.
have a really good coach, and that's what Pitt State is for me.
Okay.
Uh, I talked to a few other schools around. I talked to some D1s, but one, they couldn't offer the money that I wanted, and
Yeah.
two, I mean, their vault programs were not as good as Pitt.
Okay.
So,
So what provides you the idea that like one vault program is better than the others? Just the performance from the kids, or
yeah, you can kind of just like look at who's vaulting higher, and that's the cool thing about like track is there is a
yeah,
measurable like in basketball, it's a lot about like the vibe of the team and how you get
right.
along with them and like all that type of stuff. But like with track, like these are the people that are jumping the highest.
Okay.
And then another thing is just like the improvement. So like if you come into college as an 11-foot vaulter and you leave as a 13-foot vaulter, I mean that's obviously a good
Yeah.
coach. So
So why aren't the bigger schools or the D1 top school programs, why don't they have good programs?
a lot of it is just the coaching.
Okay.
Um, I mean, there obviously is some really good coaches at the D1 level, but there's also some really good coaches at the D2 level.
Okay.
It's like our program has won D2 nationals the past our girls this last year, but the guys have won the past like 5 years.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
coach.
our program. Yeah. So my
Well,
coach
where
is
is Pitt?
it's Southeast Kansas.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you in the dorms then, or
No, I have my own house.
okay.
Well, I don't have I rent it with one of my friends.
I got my own house. I jump
Yeah.
over it sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah. No, we had to live in the dorms my freshman year, but
Mm.
yeah,
Was there any positive experiences from living in the dorms?
I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I guess being on campus and being able to walk to class
Yeah.
was fine, but yeah, I did not really
Not
have,
so much.
yeah.
Outside of pole vaulting, what has been some enjoyable experiences for you, either with family or with school?
Um, well, one of the most, I guess, fun things that is kind of recent, my sister is on the track team now with me, so that's kind of both pole vault and school. But
Yeah.
I just graduated with my degree in physical education.
Okay, let's
Now
go.
I'm starting a master's degree in educational leadership, but I also picked up a GA position, and so being able to like kind of start working, I guess,
Yeah.
that's pretty fun.
All right, now we can get into I want to say the fun questions, but those are the ones that I'm gonna need a lot of help with, as well as all the other ones I asked. Um, so as far as physical education, like what are you looking to do in that field?
I'll probably start out teaching,
Okay.
like teaching PE.
Yeah.
And then my master's in is in educational leadership with an emphasis in like athletic director leadership.
Okay.
And so I think eventually I'll kind of move into an athletic director position and maybe like an assistant principal. Sometimes those are tied together.
Ooh, let's go. So I feel like like you said, the school was the high school you went to is very into sports and stuff like that. I still live in my hometown. But they really like their sports. But I feel that like the adults, when they go to the games, it's like, hey, like where is the physical fitness? Like where is the health on there? Has there been anything that you've seen on like, oh, here's a really healthy town, not just like a good sports team?
Yeah, I think my hometown is relatively like fit, I guess.
Okay.
Like a lot of the people there are like involved somehow.
Yeah.
Pretty big on like either being involved in sports or being involved in like band or something.
Okay.
So,
So just getting people more involved. It's I'm trying to figure out what I can if I'm going to be in the city for a while, what I can do for the city, but it's I feel like health is a big thing that would help a lot of people.
yeah, I just kind of did over the summer. I did some like fitness classes. Like I hosted
Okay.
a fitness class.
Yeah.
I think just also eventually I'll like coach little league stuff, and
Yeah.
we have a gym in town, so hopefully I can, I don't know, maybe if I don't enjoy teaching as much, I could be like a personal trainer or something.
Yeah. Well, and it's I would say we had like 3,000, well, 4,000 people in our school. So that's around like 8,000 to 10,000 parents or whatever can be touched in that area. And like that's a big amount of people if you throw up like one or two tracks in the middle of the town. I don't think that's going to hold all those people. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out ways. It's like there's a town next to us. They do a walk. I think it's like
Oh
once a
yeah.
month. I'm friends with the mayor. I think he's still the mayor. They have an election coming up. Um, but they were brought to DC because they are doing a health initiative of like
Mm.
walking once a month, and that was like mind blowing. It's like, oh, come to DC. We need to see what you're doing here. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is
I've
wild.
seen that like on social
Yeah,
media. Like
yeah.
this girl that I know lives in Tampa, and they have like a group called like Tampa Girls That Walk.
Okay.
And so they just all get together and they walk around and like they
Yeah.
just get to meet new people. And I think that's pretty cool.
Oh,
My
absolutely.
my hometown is 3,000 people, so like my hometown is as big as your school.
Oh
So
my,
like it's
that's,
really
I feel
small.
like
So
if you want to make change, you can make it quick.
yeah. Yeah.
Let me knock over my computer a little bit more. So when you did the classes, were you taking the classes during the summer or were you leading the classes?
No, I was leading the classes. I've
Okay.
had like a handful of women, but it was like early. It was at 6 a.m. and we'd do just some fun random workouts that I would make up.
Yeah.
It was hard because I was also working wheat harvest, and which is
The
a very Kansas thing.
way out of left field, but makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Makes sense. Let's get
So,
into it. What I mean, wheat harvest sounds you're harvesting wheat.
yeah.
Are you driving the combine? Like what is your position here?
I was working in the grain elevator, so when they harvest the wheat,
Okay.
they put it on the trucks.
Yeah.
They bring the trucks to the co-op, which is where they store the wheat.
Yeah.
So they jump onto a scale. It weighs how much their truck is. They go and dump it in the elevator, the grain elevator,
Yeah.
and then they drive back onto the scale, and it tells us. And then I guess while they're on the scale initially, we have something called like a probe, and it brings wheat into the building.
Hmm.
And so we take the sample, they drive away, and they dump their wheat. While they're dumping their wheat, we grade the wheat, and so it can tell us how much protein's in it, how dry it is,
Yeah.
like all these different factors. And that'll tell us kind of where to store it. So they're all like kind of sorted in different, like, I don't know if some people that haven't even seen a grain elevator. I don't know if you know what the grain
Uh,
elevator looks like.
is that the turn? Like it goes up the
Yeah, and so they're
okay.
the big white cylinder things that are all lined up. And so each little cylinder, each little thing is like sorted
Yeah.
into different
So
wheat.
I think we have those, but they're all full of corn
Yeah.
in Chicago or Illinois.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we'll sort them and then we weigh them and then we pay them for their wheat,
Okay.
basically.
And is this a lot of different farmers? Like, so you worked for the middle person at that point then?
Yeah, so the co-op is technically producer owned. So like the farmers kind of like it's co-op, so they own it and they work with the
Oh, that's nice.
business itself. And it's like a lot that I can't even like explain because
I
I just work there in the summers, but
I feel like that's a very long day, especially if you're starting at 6 a.m. coaching.
yeah, so in wheat harvest, you work like overtime because the farmers they want to get the wheat like they want to get it out as soon as possible. Like when it
Yeah.
is like at its best time, they want to get it off the field so that it doesn't dry up or it
Hmm.
doesn't rain and then they can't harvest it. So we're working, we start at 8 and sometimes we work till like 10 or 11. So like during wheat harvest, I had a 70-hour week and then the next week I had an 80-hour week.
Oh,
And but I was
hello.
also doing the workout programs
Yeah.
morning. And so I do the workout programs at 6, work from 8 to like 10, and then I'd wake up and start working again at 8.
What about jumping? When were you jumping?
In the summer, I don't vault
Oh,
just
okay.
because, especially in college, like once we get to school, we don't really stop practicing. And like
Gotcha.
our season starts in December.
Okay.
So from December to May, it's
Yeah.
like the season the whole time. So summer
Now
is like my only time off.
is that a thing in Kansas that everyone takes off for the wheat harvest, or is this a good gig that you got?
Yeah. Well, like all track athletes kind of take off
Okay.
for the summer. I mean, we do still like work out and we lift and we run, but
Yeah.
like obviously, and another thing is like there's not really anywhere to vault. Like you have to have
Okay.
the poles in the pit and a lot more equipment than it takes just to like long jump or
Right. I'm
so.
gonna go to the track today. I got nothing. I
Yeah.
got nothing. So when you were coaching for the 6 a.m. class, did you find that it was super enjoyable? What was your feelings around that?
It was fun and the ladies I had were a lot of fun. I think I was just kind of in over my head because I had never taught a group class before
Yeah.
and I'm kind of introverted and I'm just not super like outgoing and energetic. And so I think some people when they work out, they really need that kind of
Yeah.
energetic motivation. And I'm kind of like the person to be like, good job, that was good. I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it. Like I'm not
Yeah.
like to be super enthusiastic. So,
Hmm. I coached at a CrossFit gym for a couple of years, and we had a wide variety of coaches. Some of them were super energetic and bubbly. Myself, like if you got like a good job or like me excited, like then you knew like it was real excitement. And
yeah.
not to say the other coaches weren't excited all the time. They just that's just who they were. I'm like
Yeah.
that is impressive. I remember for one of the CrossFit certifications I had to get. It just wanted us to program for like 2 weeks, and I would just get paralyzed by trying to come up with the perfect program.
Mm.
How did you come up with the programs that you were running?
Um, a lot of it, I mean, I repeated a few of them, but some of them I would just, the main goal of the group was just kind of get moving a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I think I really just tried to keep it fun and like
Hmm.
do things that were kind of outside the box. And
Yeah.
I didn't really have a whole lot of equipment, so I did a lot of like body weight stuff and
Hmm.
you know.
So as far as going into education, was there a point where like I'm not going to get my master's, or how did you make that decision?
So I decided to get my master's because my sophomore year of college I broke my ankle
Oh
and so
no!
I had to redshirt.
What
So I didn't
happened?
compete. I was doing a pole vault drill on the
Okay.
turf and like I went to jump and because we were on the turf, the pole didn't like stick in the ground. And so I jumped and the pole slid forward.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of like came down and landed funky on my
Yeah.
ankle. And so I broke it. It was October. And
Hmm.
so I was basically out for indoor season. And then I competed some outdoor, but it was just like from a short run.
Yeah.
And I was unattached because I was redshirting. So
Gotcha.
I didn't compete with my team. So now I have another year of eligibility next year. And so that's why I'm staying another year and getting my master's.
Let's go.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna redshirt. Should I do some more schooling? Absolutely.
I figured might as well because it's getting mostly paid for. So
That's great. So as far as the master's program goes, I have a friend that she's a teacher, and all the stuff, not all the stuff, a majority of the classes that she was taking to get her master's, they contradicted a lot of the teaching that she learned while she was in school. Is that something that you're seeing or expecting to see when you're going into it?
mine, my master's, so because it's in like leadership, it'll be kind of a whole different world than
Okay.
physical education. So I'm sure I'll see like some differences, but I also like right now I'm in my first semester and so I'm in like the very beginning of
Yeah.
the program. So I haven't seen a whole lot of like contradictions.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if I will, but because I'm also doing it at the same school that I got my bachelor's at,
Nice.
so I'm sure some of it like they're gonna like line up just because they have the same teaching philosophies
Yeah,
and people, but yeah.
that's a good thing. What is the difference in difficulty when it comes to masters? Because I once again, same friend, she's like, "Oh yeah, I just finished my 8 week class in like 5 days or whatever it is." What's the scenario going on for you?
I have an 8 week class, but I can go like 1 week ahead, but I wouldn't, and I'm like a procrastinator, so I wouldn't really work ahead like that either.
Yeah,
But
need that
yeah, I
pressure.
try to go. Yeah, I I do it when it's due,
Yeah.
and I'm not really the type to work super ahead. So
So, are you living with your sister right now, or does she have to be in the dorms?
she's a freshman, so she has to be in the dorms.
Okay. So, do
Hmm.
you guys hang out a lot, or just at practice, or?
We hang out at practice. She comes over every once in a while, but yeah, we see enough of each other at practice because our practices are long.
Um, so well to wrap things up, everyone gets the same two questions. What's your definition of health? Not necessarily the dictionary definition, but what is health to you?
Health, I guess I would define it as being able to live a long, happy life.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that goes with eating, like consuming things that are good for you and then moving your body. So,
I dig that. And then what's something the people listening to the podcast would be able to take away as a positive?
um, I think the biggest thing is that like everybody goes through stuff, but you can't let it define you. And I know people say that a lot, but it's true. I think you don't realize how much successful people have gone through.
Hmm.
And sometimes like you think that because you've experienced these things that you can't experience success as well, and that's just not true.
Well, there it is. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Vital Athlete. And listen up, this could make a real difference. I've been using Vital Athlete Freeze Roll On for the last 6 months. I stopped using regular painkillers about 10 years ago because of the negative side effects on your liver and kidneys. Vital Athletes understands this. They've created a CBD roll on specifically for pain and injury relief. Their Freeze Roll On gives you fast acting relief right where you need it. So you can keep going. If you care about getting the most out of every workout, then Vital Athlete is for you.